How is everybody doing today?
Good. Did you get any more snow?
Funny you would ask. Monday night, we got half a foot. Um,
Oh, gee.
the highway was closed from Huntsville to Trout Creek, and for those of you that don't know the area, that's like about 150 kilometers of highway that was closed all night on Monday night.
Wow.
You want to see? It's winter.
Oh my
My
God.
God.
The view from my office.
Nice. You
Yeah.
keep it. You keep it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. You know what? I'll do you a solid and keep it for you.
okay. Good. Well, good morning, everybody. Just today we're just going to touch base on a few of us sat in on a nice session yesterday that Daryl King hosted and had Ryan Hodge as his guest on a podcast. And the discussion was really talking about, what do they see as, leaders in our industry of current market position, what realtors should be doing, in this type of marketplace. And there were some interesting points. So I just thought today we would sort of just cover what the discussions were. And surprisingly, there's no magic. There was no there's no magic to it. The biggest factor that came out and that we've always talked about is the consistency. They're finding that agents are not being consistent in how they're promoting, setting time aside actually to promote, setting time aside to network. Lots of agents are just flying by their seat of their pants, not knowing what they're going to be doing on a daily basis. They're finding that the agents that are focused and have a daily plan, and ironically enough, both of them said, if you give me 2 hours a day, 5 days a week as a realtor who is actually focusing on prospecting, networking, follow up, and that's all they do, is they have no reasons why they would not be successful. We've talked about that. So it was interesting how they are also finding that agents are looking for, the quick next shiny object. I think Daryl referred to it as a squirrel. Right, when he was basically says, the squirrel is always looking, running all over the place, but always looking for, the next item that's going to, this is going to bring me business, versus, well, you're going that way because you see another agent doing it, doesn't mean that it's something that you should be doing, right? Ryan got down and he basically said, so you need to just focus on 3 to 4 avenues of business that you concentrate on. And they're not the same for everybody, except the database is the most important. And we talked about that. But the whole idea is they look at the facts of, how are you working your database? How often are you communicating with them? How are you communicating with the individuals? Because not everybody in your database is going to be communicated the same way. You're going to have clients or people in your database that want to be communicated by text, email, some want to, by phone and in person. The interesting thing that came out yesterday that was always, we've talked about this, and more so now, with all the technology that is out there, it's easy to hide behind your phone. It's easy to hide behind your digital personality where you're just posting stuff. The agents that are succeeding right now are face-to-face, live phone calls and face-to-face meetings, because it builds that differentiator from everybody else online. Anybody can create a presence online. But where it falls short is if that presence and the way you're posting, especially if you're using AI, and this is where a lot of it falls down, is agents have jumped into the AI aspect of it. They do articles, they post those articles, but then they go to meet the person and you're not the AI. You talk differently, your body language is different. So you have to be very cautious on how are you presenting yourself through all of the technologies. And it has to match who you are, right? Don't try and be an agent that you're looked at and you look and go, hey, well, look, that's what this person's doing. Well, that person's personality. When you meet that person in person, it's exactly what you're seeing. Where if, yeah,
I just wanted to kind of call on Elizabeth for a second because she's doing these videos on her Instagram. And I feel like every time I watch them, they're super authentic. I've met her in person. It's exactly who she is. So Elizabeth, do you want to speak a little bit to the videos that you do and maybe some traction that you're getting from that?
First of all, thank you. That's so nice. Yeah, I feel the same way where like if I'm looking up something that you should be doing, it just feels not real. So I don't make a script. I just know the topic that I want to talk about and go for it. Sometimes I have to do a second take because I, go on a tangent or something, but mostly it's the first take. And it's just as if I was explaining it to a friend or a client. I find that a lot of the people I'm working with are first time or maybe second time home buyers. So there's just so much that it's a lot of information and a lot of overwhelming stuff. So I'm trying to do like one tiny thing for each video. One was what an irrevocable date is. Just super simple, but I'm glad it's coming across as authentic and helpful because that's what I was going for.
good.
Thank you.
And that's the whole thing, is that don't try and be something that you're not, right? And because it's a relationship business, it's all built on trust. And imagine now you've built this persona on this online video or through your messaging that you're doing, and all of a sudden they meet you in person and go, like, what the hell? This doesn't match. Then where's the trust factor, right? It's why, you get agents that say, you know what, I'm going to hire a third party to do my social media for me, including answering back and forth the messaging. Well, except that third party is not the way you talk. It's not the way you respond. So where are you building that trust factor? So that was one big point that came out yesterday, and right down to, you still have to be professional. You still have to be, present yourself in a manner that you are in sales, but you're more of a guidance than being a pushy salesperson, right? Like right now in this marketplace, there are people that are just unsure of what they need to be doing. And if you are a transactional based agent where all you're looking at are, I got to slam these people in because I need this next deal, or I got to get this money, so I'm just not going to be concerned about them. You're more concerned about yourself. You're not going to be in this business very long, or you're going to have to work really, really hard to always try and find new business. And that's not the way I highly recommend you work the real estate business. It's a relationship business. It's based on building that trust, giving that guidance. I've already told clients, three different clients, where I just told them to wait. And, the one client said to me, Scott, like, this is, we're looking at, and I'm talking one other house is worth probably 3 million. They're looking at buying something for 2 million. And she really wanted it. They're downsizing from a big house overlooking the lake to a detached condo. One in a small complex, maybe two come up a year. The one that came up, we went and looked at it, and she said, this works great for us. And he looked at me and says, I'm not really ready. I want another summer in our house, backing on the lake. And I said, you know what? And he said, like, I'm not sure where the market is. I've got to take some investments out. Because, and I basically said to him, said, look, you know what? Waiting is not going to hurt you. I can find you another one in this complex. Enjoy the summer, enjoy backing onto the lake overlooking the water, and enjoy that another season. They love to garden. And I said, right now, we're in an uncertain time, and I can't tell you today where your house is going to be in September. But if you're buying and selling in the same marketplace, then that's going to be fine. It was interesting that, you know, they know a lot of real estate people. She said to me afterwards, she said, you know, that's why we deal with you, because we know you're going to tell us and guide us how we expect we should, you know, what we, you know, not that you want to put us into a deal. It's, you know, you're guiding us in a way that it's about us, not about you. So that's how the conversations yesterday were interesting when, you know, you're talking about, you know, Ryan and Daryl that are, they run great offices, they run big teams, and they're still going with like nothing has changed. This is a people business. It's a people business. And you got to always look out for who can you help? Like, who can you guide properly? And that's one of the things that they came out yesterday and said is, it's a simple business. Just wake up every day being positive, because in this world right now, and we've talked about this, all the negativity that's out there. Like if you're soaking all that in, that's going to be coming out of you, and you're going to be basically sitting in front of people, chatting with them, and it's going to all be negative. You think that's going to attract? All you're going to do is attract negative people. Negative people aren't going to help you do business. You got to be positive, and you just got to look at every day just trying to help one person, right? Not selling one person, helping one person. Okay. They also looked at it and then they said it's quite simple. It's just do your daily tasks, know what your goals are, what do you have to do daily, what do you have to do weekly, and just follow that. Now, Herbert, you were on that. Is there anything else that came out of yesterday that you absorbed, or Michelle, that you came across that they talked about?
Yeah, the conversation was, though the tools have changed, you know, we have CRMs now, AI tools that helps us write newsletters and posts and stuff like that. That has changed. But then when you have Nasir, who's been doing this since the 80s, and when I talk to him, nothing's changed in terms of you still got to go out there. You still got to talk to people. You still got to make relationships. You still got to let people know that you're a real estate agent, no matter where you are, where you're at. People need to know who you are, so that way the conversation starts. That has never changed and will never change. So that was the biggest thing that I got out of that call.
Yeah, and it just reinforces what we know we have to be doing, right? We know we have to go and communicate with people. We know we have to look at building our database, and however you do that, it's different for everybody. If you don't like door knocking, don't do it. If you are a person that likes to network, make sure you do more of it. They both said, this is an industry right today where you have to communicate and work with about 10 times more people than you did in 2021, 2022, because 2021, 2022, you had one person you were working with. They were pretty well guaranteed to buy or sell. They weren't looking. They were making a decision to buy or sell because of the way the marketplace is. Today, it's back to being more of a normalized market where you have to have 10 times more contacts to be able, or let's call them engagements, to be able to get the success that you need. That's normal. That's what it's always been, you know. So you just have to make sure whatever it is that you do that is your niche, make sure you enjoy doing it, because that is going to come across. Okay. And follow up is one of the biggest things that got talked about yesterday, because it's the whole idea is you're building a relationship business that's going to give you referrals and repeat business. Okay. So whatever it is that you decide are going to be your 3 or 4 pillars of real estate, one has to be your database. But they're not all the same. Okay. So, and again, it goes back to that idea of the shiny object. Just because you see one agent who's really doing well with online leads doesn't mean, oh, I better go jump in and do online leads. If you want to really figure out what that person's doing, go sit with them. And all of a sudden you find out that, yeah, Ryan Hodge does really well with online leads, but he's spending $5,000 a month. He has one person that all the leads go to, and that person is communicating instantly with everybody that they get a lead from. Well, if you're not willing to do that, and I basically expressed it, 10 o'clock on a Friday night, someone's online and you get a notification that someone's online, are you going to get on the phone right away and text that person and say, hey, I see that you're looking at this property. Do you have time for a quick conversation? If you're not going to do that, don't do online leads. You're just going to waste your money. Okay. But also, if you're a person that likes to door knock, then make sure that you perfect that. Make sure you know what the dialogue is. You have a routine. We've had James Kavanaugh talk about how he has a system. That's what he does. And he's very successful at it. But that's his niche. Okay. Find out what your niche is. And that was very evident yesterday during the call, and they really came out and said that it's not everybody, like you get agents that jump in the business or are trying to figure out how to redo the business, and they try a whole bunch of different stuff and they don't focus on ones that they enjoy to do. Okay. What else came out from yesterday?
No, and I think that's a great point regarding leads. And I think the agents that I've been speaking to on the phone, especially brand new ones, seem to think that leads is the be all and end all to their business. Like, if I can just get a list of numbers, I'm going to be good. And it's like, well, that's just one small aspect of the business. Just like Scott was saying, there has to be 3 or 4 different ways that you're communicating with people, getting leads, doing the work that's necessary to build those relationships. To focus on just one thing, then it's not going to work for you. That's the biggest thing I got out of that
And
call.
And so again, looking at your own individual business, I also asked Ryan, I said, how often do you and your team look at your goals? And he said, well, we have 10-year goals, 5-year goals, 3-year goals, 1-year goals, semi-annual goals, and we have daily goals. And we look at the end of each week, we sit down and look at, did we hit our targets? Because we know if we hit our daily, weekly targets, the rest will take care of itself. So he said, it's really important that if you're with a team, if you're an individual agent, you look at your goals weekly and make sure you're hitting your targets for what you're trying to do to communicate with your database, to add people to your database. My brother Grant, who a lot of you know, he runs a successful team. And I asked him, I said, so what is and he also coaches teams in Ontario. I asked him the one thing that would make the difference between a successful realtor and just an average or below average realtor. And he says, it's as simple as adding one person to your database a day. That's it. If you can add one person to your database a day, and even if you took a month off, let's even break it down to 2 months off. He said, if you added 300 people to your database a year, and you're in the business 5 years, okay, that's 1,500 people that now know you, that you're really, but he said, you really got to work your database. He said out of 1,500 people, 10% are going to do something. So now it's 150. Okay. He said, even if you got to the point where you heard, yeah, even if you got to the point where you got even 10% of that, okay, a year, that's 15 deals. Average commission, let's call it 10 grand. It's 150,000 a year. Now, that doesn't include the spin-off business that you're going to get from doing all the other social media stuff, your open houses, your flyers, and things like that. But just by adding one person to your database a day for 300 days of the year, it's as simple as that. So how many of you could add one person a day to your database? All of you should be going, wow, it's that simple? Really? I didn't know that. Right? But that's all it is. So your goal should be, I'm going to add one person a day. I'm going to take 2 months off, and I'm going to add one person a day. So 300 new people to your database that you really work your database. I don't care how you do it. There's no reason why you would not have a very successful career in this business. So how I would add to my database is different than what Nathan might or what Nasir does, right? So you have to look at what do you do that you like to do that you can then add one person a day to your database. That's all you got to do. And then if you look at the other daily task would be, who can I help today? What one person, one client, one person, what could I do today to help somebody? Not sell them, help them. And sometimes helping them is telling them not to move. Right? And that's going to go a long way in building your business, building your referrals, and enjoying doing the business. It's a tough business, right? It's a tough business where you are out there, and yeah, you're going to get rejected, but that's okay. That's part of it. You need the no's to get to the yeses, right? It's numbers. The more authentic you are, the more genuine you are, the more passionate you are about it, the more success you're going to have. But simply, it came out yesterday, simply the things I could say is add one person to your database a day. I don't care how you do it. And look at making, who could you help go each day? Doesn't matter who it is, how it is. And it could be maybe once a day you're just posting some information about stuff. And that may be all of a sudden someone looks at your video and goes, you know what, that makes sense. And you may not even know you helped them. Right? But just look at activities that you can do to add to your database. Make sure you've got the systems, which we have, to manage your database. Be genuine. Don't go chasing after all the shiny objects that other people are doing. Focus on what you like to do. And it was pretty simple. It's not complicated.
One note I took during the call yesterday too, which for me personally, it was super important, was setting a money goal. And I think for me, that really motivates me, because there's a lot of things that I want to do this year. And I think by writing down a goal, which I'm going to do today on my wall here, I'm going to write down a goal that I want to attain. So that way it's something that now lights a fire on me to go out and do the things that I need to do to obtain that money goal that I want to complete for this year. So for me, that was a big one.
Yeah, and the idea behind any goal you set is, once you set the goal, you then have to set, what are the tasks that I need to do to obtain the goal, right? And
I just also wanted to add, off of this point of setting goals and stuff, I thought it was really interesting yesterday. that the order in which Ryan presented the most important points was, the first question is, am I doing the work on myself? That's the most important. Then what are my goals? Third was prospecting and lead generation. So huge emphasis on your own personal foundations, your goals, your values, and then get to the business. Because if you're not positive, if you don't know what you're reaching for, it's very easy to get lost in doing tasks in this business. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Good. Okay. So again, it's no magic pill, right? There's no magic to it. It's, it's each individual has to find what their niche is, work that niche, be authentic, be positive. Stop listening to all the stinking thinking that's going on out there. But the way you do that is you got to be positive. You got to know that you're doing the tasks necessary. So at the end of the week, you can look at it and go, hey, you know what? I had a successful week. May not have had a deal, but you had a successful week, and you keep adding those successful weeks together, the deals are going to happen. It's when you start looking at the end game of a transaction that gets you messed up, because it's like, okay, I've got to go make this dollar. I got to go, without knowing what are the tasks I have to do? Who can I help? And that was, came out yesterday, and it's nothing new, right? This is nothing new. So it was just reinforcing the fact that we have to look at, it's a sales business. There are tasks we have to do. There are no's we have to go through. We're all going to make mistakes. Learn from your mistakes and move on. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Guide them properly. Make sure you're informed, right? Don't wing it. Make sure you do your knowledge. Make sure you look at your research. And if you're not sure, just say, I'm not sure, but I'm going to find out the answer for you. Don't bluff your way through it. Okay, so that's a lot of points that came out yesterday. I thought it was very well done. It was a lot of interaction. There were good points. Comments, thoughts, what's going on? What are people seeing now? Open the floor to comments, questions. A lot of smart people on this call. Don't be hiding.
Lots going on.
Good. Like what?
Well, I have to figure out something with the township. I went to see a property on Monday from somebody I met at the Cottage Life show. And this is a little bit complicated. The property is 2 parcels with 2 assessment roll numbers. There's a chain on the legal description, but it's registered as one property with 2 ARNs, and they want to sell off the one ARN.
Mhm.
It's a tiny bit complicated.
Sounds like the properties merged at one time.
Yeah, it probably was. But the legal description for the main property shows the chain.
Yeah.
So, and we know a chain is 66 feet, which is a road allowance. So I have to look into that. So that's what's going on with me.
All right, good. Are you finding still activity of people looking to move north that are looking to sell, especially, I guess, more so from the cottage show that you guys did? Was there talk of people basically looking at moving from the GTA still?
Yes. There's definitely a lot more activity here.
Okay.
And I think with all of the stuff that's going on in the US and all the uncertainty, things are getting a little bit busier here for sure.
Good. Okay. I'm on the notes of sort of what I came across an article that an agent wrote in the REM magazine. I thought it was quite interesting. It actually talks about the lost art of building a referral-based business, why personal connections still matter. And this sort of goes back to, what they were talking about yesterday, but I thought I would share these points with you. It says, in today's digital age where AI and social media are dominating business strategies, it's easy to overlook the power of human connection. This is especially true in industry like real estate, where trust, community, and personal relationships are essential to building one's business. While technology has streamlined many real estate processes, from client management to marketing, building strong personal relationships still ranks among the most effective ways to generate word-of-mouth referrals. This is an article that just came out yesterday. So I'm looking at this going, okay, this is, everybody's talking about, you know, the idea of where, and this is coming from people that are doing business. So I look at this, I actually read it late last night, and I thought this ties into exactly what, you know, Daryl and Ryan were talking about and what we discussed. So the idea, what you have to understand is, if we are hearing this and we're seeing and discussing this, the consumers are feeling this way. This is not a surprise to the consumers. The consumers are driving this, right? So we've always talked about, if you could get inside the mind of a consumer, it would make your job so much easier. Well, if we're all talking about this and we know the technology, don't hide behind it, I'm going to tell you, the consumers are feeling the same way. They're looking for that individual agent that just isn't about stats, just isn't about the next transaction. They're looking for that guidance. They're looking for that direction. And if you're not operating your business that way, you're going to unfortunately struggle. Okay. With consumers being constantly exposed to advertisements and information online, it can be challenging to stand out and earn their business. Consumers often prefer to work with professionals they know and rely on recommendations from those they trust, especially when making significant life decisions like buying or selling a home. This is why referrals are one of the most powerful ways to establish credibility and attract clients. So now think about adding one person to your database a day. You work your database. You generally take an interest in people in your database. How many more referrals are you going to get? You're going to get more. How much repeat business are you going to get? Right? So I look at that and go, I know this works. I'm still getting business and referrals from my database 45 years later. But I don't work it as the best way I should be, but I know this works. And this person, by the way, is not associated with our brand. They're in the East Coast, and they're seeing the same things that we're seeing here, right? So the consumer is bombarded with all kinds of online stuff. We know when we're doing online leads, you call them. If you call them right away, you get at least the opportunity of having a discussion with them. You call them a day later, they're going, who are you? What are you calling me for? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't sign up for anything, right? So I wanted to share that part. Let me just see here. This is interesting. Speaking of, so that goes on talking about, he also talks about maintaining the relationships over time. It can be as easy as connecting with a prospect online and then reaching out to them on their birthday or other events. Speaking of birthdays and other events, I have found that a phone call is the most effective way to stand out. Most agents will do an email. Or a Facebook post is okay. A text is better, but a phone call is best because so few people will actually have a conversation. Yep.
You know who does that really well? Alan.
Alan? Yeah.
Every holiday, birthday, he's always telling me he's reaching out to these people. Text definitely, if not phone call. And he's getting really good traction.
Good.
So.
Excellent. Way to go, Alan.
Nancy, do you have a comment or question?
I send birthday cards to all of the people that I've dealt with. It's cumbersome. It's a lot of work, but I find I send them by mail, like by post. and they open it and people are excited when they get fun mail and it's not a bill. And I usually get a phone call same day when they receive it.
Again, it's communication, right? It's being authentic.
Yeah.
You're doing it, and that's the thing. It's be you, right? Just be who you are. Right? And then people will receive that. They'll appreciate that. The other thing that is in here as well is once you get referrals, make sure you acknowledge the person that gave you the referral. Right? Reach out to them. Keep them informed on how it's going. Because you get a referral, you always respond with gratitude for them. Thank them for it. Let them know how it went. Because they want to see you succeed. That's why they gave you the referral. But on the other side of that is they want to make sure the person that they referred you to is looked after. The best way is to keep them in the loop. So anyways, I thought that was good. He also talked about he's a big believer in participating in community events. And he always, one of the things that he has done is built his business around, because he's in the East Coast, he's built a big referral business with other realtors across Canada and North America, looking and letting them know what's going on in his area and how he can service any referrals they might have for that location. So not only looking at a database of consumers, but really has a large database of realtors that he's always in contact with and always letting them know what's going on in the area where he serves. So I wanted to share those points with you as well. But again, that's his niche. That's what he does. Not saying you do it that way, but you've got to find things that you like to do in this business and just do them more. Do them better, do them more. Okay, any other comments, thoughts, questions? Is this all new to people, or have you all heard this before? I know you're shaking your heads going, yeah, well, yep.
I have something on that article that you shared, Scott, about just like the real connections. It's happened to me a couple times, but most recently, I go to a yoga studio and I told the owner that I was a real estate agent. And anyway, that's one of my buyers. They close next week. And she happened to say to a whole class of 20 people, Elizabeth's my real estate agent. She helped us and it was amazing. So now all of these people know who I am and that I also have a shared interest with them. And somebody reached out to me yesterday that I never would have maybe connected with because she doesn't do the same class, like a huge referral from my client. And then just that whole network is that she.
Wonderful. See? Excellent. Well done. Good job. Yeah, but you're doing something you enjoy and you're just letting people know, hey, by the way, this is what I do. You're not shoving it in their face. You're not every time you see them, okay, anybody interested in buying or selling? That's not authentic. But absolutely letting them know what you do and you have a passion for it. That's why, you're getting the business. You're passionate about it. Good job. Anything else? Thoughts? Input, questions? Okay, what's going on in the market? Don't tell me nothing. Really? Do I have to tell you what's going on? Yes, it's here.
A 5-level backsplit in Brampton.
5-level backsplit in Brampton?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's taken a while, senior people, older people, so they're moving, downsizing. So today we're doing the virtual tour and everything, so hopefully it'll be in the market tomorrow.
Good.
Latest Friday.
Price?
$8.99.
$8.99. Okay.
It's the sales are between 8 and 8.75 in the last 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
So I don't think I'm way far off, but I still think it's a bit more harder now to sell after the tariff stuff because people are just worried compared to like before February. Or before, yeah. But the rates may come down even more now, they're saying, right? Maybe.
Yeah. The talk is the rates will come down. And it's just a matter of, trying to make sure that there is some consumer spending. So even the big banks don't like having their money sitting on the shelf. So, Lorena, you got a question? comment?
Hi. No,
Hi.
hi. I just wanted to share my listing. I guess that's what
Yep.
I have a
Okay.
listing here in Brampton.
Okay.
My 4 bed, it's 3 bedroom house. It's a detached and it's just right on Vauden and Williams Parkway. Um, and it's an estate sale. So it's a good opportunity to grab a nice house in a good neighborhood. So that's up for $999 right now, and it's in the system. And
Okay.
I have a condo for lease, but I just spoke to the guy and he's looking to put it up for sale in Guelph. So that should be coming up really soon. So yeah, that's what's happening in my end.
Great. Good. How long have you had the one in Brampton at $999?
This will be the second week, so I'm reaching out to them to see drop the price. So I'm looking to lower the price on that property. So hopefully they cooperate and we can bring it down. Because I had someone call me, but the price that they're willing to give, they're not willing to take, and it's way too low than what they have. So hopefully they will cooperate and we can drop it.
All right. Good. Anybody else have anything going on? Any situations you want to talk about? Any momentum shifts that you're seeing? No? Okay, I have a question for anybody that's out there that's familiar with the area of Crystal Beach, Port Colborne, Wainfleet. Do they allow Airbnbs? I've got a client of mine just called me yesterday, says he's interested in buying a cottage in that area. He wants to use it for, sometime for personal, but other times he wants to Airbnb it. I do know of communities that are clamping down on short-term rentals, even if it is a detached, like I know Collingwood and stuff. I don't know if anybody has done any business in that area that's familiar with if they have any restrictions on short-term rentals in that community.
You want to Google it.
Yeah, I'll find
I
it,
did,
but
I sold a place not far from there.
yeah,
The guy, from, I forget the street name, but the acreage.
Yeah.
He bought a smaller house, but he's just doing a renovation and maybe in a couple of years.
okay, but he's not Airbnb or doing
No.
it, okay. All right, if anybody does know anything, fire it off to me. I will do my own research, but I just thought if anybody had done any business in that area, or had anybody that invested in that area, let me know.
But you're right, I have a potential client in Whitby.
Mhm.
He's renting rooms out, but he lives in the house and the city is cracking down on him.
Yeah.
And I said, how, it's a detached home and they're doing that too. I didn't, because Whitby is I think it's Whitby, but it's very strict with, even basement apartments and whatever. I said, these days, even Brampton, everybody's like, it's totally open, people are doing it.
Yeah, they are starting to crack down on short-term rentals because of the Airbnb stuff. So if you are doing business anywhere and you have investors that are looking at doing that, just make sure you do your research. Obviously, I'm going to do my research, but I just thought if anybody had any experience, you could let me know. The other thing that I want to share is how to build trust with a seller. And I always do this. Now, in certain condominiums, I don't do it, but I have a longtime client of mine. They, I've done some business with the family, have not done business directly with this property. They bought a house in a neighborhood, just happened to be that I owned a house in that same neighborhood for several years. And they were talking about, going to sell it. I went over and looked at it. And the value that they wanted, and I just said, look, I can give you an idea what's going on in the area, but I'd rather let me do some, detailed research and come back. But I said, but what are you thinking? And the number he gave me was so high based on where the value was. And I said, Richard, I'm going to do my research, but I'm going to tell you right now, we know that price is high, and I will send you some information. I said, but you know what? The best thing we could do for me to present your property to the marketplace the best is I need to know everything about your property. I need to know more about it than you do. I need to know more about it than the agent that's coming through and the buyer, and more so than the buyer's inspector. So one of the things I do is I do a full inspection before we list this place. I said, you okay if I do that? And I said, it's part of my marketing plan. I do it. And he said, Scott, he said, if that's what you recommend, then absolutely. He said, I'll go out, I'll book my inspector. We did the pre-inspection. It's about 3,000 square feet in Mississauga, and went through it all and basically sent him the inspection. But at the end of the inspection, this was interesting because I walk around with my inspector, I climb up in the attic, and I come back and they were home. And as we were going through doing the inspection, I could sense his restrictions on, or his guard just coming down, because I was there personally going through everything and just saying, hey, so far, no big no, nothing big different, but here are a few little items. But I said, we'll put it all in the report. And by the end of it, we were there 3 hours doing it. And at the end of it, he said, Scott, he said, I know I'm in really good hands. He said, just the way your inspector is going through the property and talking about certain things, and you're coming and relaying it to us. He said, I could see. And then when I sent him the report yesterday, I called him and I said, hey, I'm calling you just, hey, I want to come over tomorrow. We're going to go through a bunch of the items, and there's some things I'm going to suggest we do. And he said, Scott, he says, I got to tell you, he said, whatever you decide on, he said, I was not sure on the idea of doing this inspection. I thought you were coming in to rip my house apart and make me spend a whole bunch of money. He said, but whatever you recommend, he said, now I understand why you're so thorough. And he said, whatever you recommend now, we'll just go with. So being there, now imagine if I only sent my inspector and said, you just go do it, and I'm not there, I'm not communicating. So again, how do you build trust, right? Because I'm there personally being involved, right? So make sure no matter what you're doing, if there is, you have a listing and there's a home inspection from the purchaser side, make sure you're there. Don't be in their way, but make sure you're there. The easiest way to fix an issue or discuss an issue is if you're there and all of a sudden you go, yeah, no, I was there and they pointed this out to me, and so now you're not. So when I have anytime I sell property, I do my pre-list full inspection, and it's a detailed inspection. Anytime I get a conditional on home inspection, I let the agent know. I said, hey, by the way, just to let you know, I do my pre-list. I've gone through this house personally. And it's amazing how the agent on the other side all of a sudden goes, oh, okay. So whereas normally if you don't do that, you're going to get this list of all these items and they're going to put a big cost factor on it. And it's going to be, oh, we got to spend $40,000 to fix all this stuff up. Anyway, I wanted to share the fact that do whatever you guys do, how you represent somebody, either on the buyer side or the seller side, to build that trust, be involved. Be there, be involved. Okay? Because it's the communication between you and your client that's going to build that trust. It's that communication that's going to build the referral business and repeat business. Okay? Everybody's busy. But schedule your time knowing this is what is important today to my client. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you, just because I know that it was interesting to see, and I've known this person a while, but going in from the first initial meeting to showing that I care about their property, showing that I care about the situation for them, has really dropped their guard. And now it's more of, they can see I'm looking out for their interest, not just another transaction. Right? So that's how I do business. Just want to share that with everybody. Any other thoughts before we wrap up? We've got a few more minutes. No? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else that you can think of, any questions? We're gonna have, obviously, on April 16th, there's a possibility of another rate reduction. Be ready for that. It may or may not happen. If it does, probably a quarter point, just to try and kickstart. Obviously, we've got an election going on. I'm telling you, 60 days from now, again, 60 days from now, a lot of these concerns are going to be in the past, and people are going to start making decisions to move forward with stuff. But you got to be doing you got to be doing your communications now. Okay. That's what I can say. Any other questions that came in?
Just thanks for a great session.
Okay. All right, everybody. Take care. Thank you. All the best to everybody
Thank you.
there.
Thank you so much for your
Um,
time. Nice to see everybody.
Good to see everybody. Go out and find your one new person to add to your database today.
Okay.